Well, I've made these comments before,
Okay.
and I can't resist repeating them. No, I don't know when you got your invitation to the media encounter, but I got my invitation around 6 p.m.
Yeah, same. And I thought that was
And then I
unfortunate.
was, on the invitation, it stated that the media encounter was for 8. So the alarm bells went off. I mean, what is happening at the presidency? Why is the presidency in a rush to do a media encounter? Is there something special and so on? And this is the first time that the president is holding a media encounter at 8 p.m. and so on. So I was very anxious. I thought that something out of the ordinary was happening. So, as you do know, we all rushed there, and the encounter began. There was something which was striking, and that had to do with the discipline surrounding the organization of this particular encounter. Everything went according to time. You know, that's unusual, I mean, for media encounters. And this one, everything went according to time. And then the other thing too, which was very significant, was the fact that the president, you know, answered the questions alone without assistance. You know, normally, presidents would be flanked by ministers who would be helping him to fill in the gaps and so on. This was a president who took the podium and answered everything. There were, I think, 2 questions that he missed. But then he came back, apologized, and answered those questions and so on. As I said from the beginning of this particular program, you got the impression that he knew what he was talking about. He was familiar with his figures and so on. He didn't need any prompting to answer questions and so on. It was so very clear. Anybody who was there could see that. There was one problem area, and that has to do with the fight against Galamsey. When I left the media encounter and was going home, I tuned into City FM. And there was a lady there whose name I've forgotten, who was livid, you know, and saying that this government is not taking the fight against Galamsey seriously and so on, you know. And since then, there have been all kinds of reactions, including the reaction of the Catholic Bishops' Conference and so on. So it's important to note that one area of concern to the Ghanaian public has been his response to the fight against Galamsey, because the reactions haven't been positive. They've been relatively negative, you understand? Now, what did he say? The president reacted to the call on him to declare a state of emergency and said, look, even the non-emergency powers available to a president and government have not been fully utilized. And therefore, there's no need to escalate to a state of emergency. And the question that many people have asked is that, given the seriousness of Galamsey, how come that even the non-executive powers of government and president have not been exercised? You understand? It raises a serious concern, and it's been raised over and over again. Now, what do I think? Look, Galamsey is a serious threat to everything. Galamsey can collapse Ghana completely. I mean it, collapse Ghana completely. The doctors, the medical associations and so on, have been warning us over the last 4 or 5 years. What are they saying? They're saying that children born in Galamsey-prone or Galamsey-endemic areas are being born deformed. Some of them are born without some of their organs. They have no eyes. They have defective organs. They are born with heart problems. They are born with iron in their blood and so on. These are medical reports, verifiable medical reports. You understand? And it's not just a few cases. The alarm bells are ringing in the Galamsey-prone areas about these medical defects that especially newborn babies are coming up with. And I'm frightened by it. If our mothers are giving birth to these babies who cannot see, who sometimes are deaf and dumb and so on, what is the future for these communities? What is the future for Ghana and so on? That's a real major concern. There are reports that the level of arsenic in the food grown in these areas is also too high. In fact, in some instances, it's been reported that the level of arsenic is 10 times higher than the level which the World Health Organization approves. We are killing ourselves. If you go and buy cassava, you go and buy anything grown in the Galamsey prone areas, you're just poisoning yourself. You understand? Then there's the question of cocoa. I mean, we've been told that cocoa is the lifeline of the national economy and so on.
Yeah.
And in the last couple of years, cocoa production has gone down by 50%. That's huge. 50%. Largely because of Galamsey, because cocoa farmers are either willingly selling their farms, to be used for mining, illegal mining, or their farms are being destroyed by the illegal miners and so on. That has huge consequences for the national economy. And then you come to Galamsey, in the mining, in the forest areas, the forest reserves, and the consequences are huge. I mean, these forests act as carbon reserves, and if they are depleted, the consequences for our existence are huge. The impact on climate change, all of those things, you understand. And then you come to the question of water sources, and that's mind-boggling. I mean, Moro, you can't believe it. The Ghana Water Company, for example, has come up with statistics to indicate that the cost of treating water for human consumption has gone up, it's gone through the roof. I think it's gone up by more than 200%.
Right.
As a matter of fact, some water treatment plants have been shut down because we've now reached the stage where no matter what you do, it is impossible to clean the water for human consumption. Only yesterday, I was telling the story of my childhood. I used to live in the Kwame Nkrumah estates in Kumasi, Kwadaso estates now. And there was a stream which was called the Kwadaso River, And we went to school, and if you felt thirsty, we just dipped the water and drank. It was not like there was no pipe-borne water in our houses and so on. But as children, we loved that water. It had a certain flavor. It had a certain, So we'll go to the Kwadaso River and drink, fetch with our palms and drink.
Because we're clean.
Clean.
Without any health consequences.
You could see the riverbed.
Yeah.
You could see the fishes in the water and so on. Now it's impossible. Even the Volta River has started turning brown. So this is a huge problem. And I think that it's important for all governments, including this one, to see Galamsey as an existential threat, a major threat to our future. There are other aspects that have not been discussed and which I do not intend to discuss in detail. And it's simply the fact that gold is a non-renewable resource. And by virtue of being a non-renewable resource, we've got to think carefully about who exploits it and what it's exploited for. Because after some years, the gold will not be there again. If you dig it and you send it to Dubai or you send it to England and so on, it's gone forever. You can't plant gold. It's gone. It's a non-renewable resource. And that is why it's important for all governments to pay particular attention to gold. Because you take it out, it's not coming back. You can't grow it, you understand? So that's another dimension. So it's important for us to do every and anything possible to end Galamsey. And I think that sense of urgency and so on did not reflect in the president's answer at the meet the press. And that is why there's a lot of anxiety, across board, about the fight against Galamsey. Look, he was impressive all the same. You were there. I was there with you.
Yes.
He knew the number of champagnes which had been seized. He knew the number of excavators which had been seized. He knew the number of people who had been arrested.
Yes.
He knew what was happening at the border. He knew about the laws on mining and so on. You were there.
Yeah.
I mean, if I lie, tell me.
Yeah. I heard
He
everything.
knew. He had all the facts at his fingertips. And yet, what he didn't do was to display a sense of urgency. People want to see the display of a certain sense of urgency, which did not come up in his Meet the Press series. And that's why we are getting all these reactions from the Catholic bishops, from all kinds of people.
State of emergency? Your personal view?
Well, I tend to agree with the president that the things that can be done in a state of emergency can be done without a state of emergency.
Okay.
I mean, look, the deployment of security forces to the mining areas can be done without the declaration of a state of emergency.
Right.
I don't see why the absence of a state of emergency makes that impossible. Even the Akufo-Addo government deployed the security services, to these areas. So it is possible it can be done. The arrest of those who are engaged in this thing can be done without recourse to a state of emergency. What is it that ought to be done, which needs a state of emergency to be able to do?
Right.
But people want to see a certain sense of urgency. People want to see the president really very deeply worried. He may be, but he didn't show in this press conference.
Right.
That's the problem,